On Amerigo Vespucci, the man who gave his name to the Americas. Amerigo Vespucci was an Italian merchant, explorer, and navigator, born on 9 March 1451 in the Republic of Florence, the center of the Renaissance at the time. He was the third son of Navigator Vespucci, a notary for the Money Changers Guild in Florence, and Lisa di Giovanni Mini. Although not too wealthy or prosperous, the Vespucci family was politically well-connected and enjoyed close relations with the powerful Lorenzo de' Medici, who was the de facto ruler of Florence. As Vespucci grew older, he was unsure of which career or occupation to pursue. His two older brothers, Antonio and Girolamo, had enrolled at the University of Pisa for their education. Antonio decided to become a notary like his father, and Girolamo entered the church to join the Knights Hospitaller on the island of Rhodes. But Vespucci remained uncertain, and instead of following his brothers to the university, he stayed in Florence and studied under the tutelage of his uncle. In 1478, Vespucci, aged 27, was invited by an older cousin of his on a Florentine diplomatic mission to Paris in order to obtain French support for Florence's war against Naples. Vespucci accepted the invite and traveled to Paris along with his cousin as a private secretary or an attaché, stopping at Bologna, Milan, and Lyon for other business. However, the diplomatic mission turned out to be a failure as Louis XI remained noncommittal. On returning to Florence, Vespucci began working with his father while continuing his studies. Shortly thereafter, in 1482, when Vespucci was 31 years old, his father died. He then began working for banker and politician Lorenzo di Pierfrancesco de' Medici, also known as Popolano, who belonged to the junior branch of the House of Medici. Vespucci and Popolano had been schoolmates under the tutelage of Vespucci's uncle. Vespucci began working as a household manager first, slowly taking up more responsibilities and eventually handling various business dealings for the family at home and abroad. During this period, Vespucci also purchased a map made by Spanish cartographer Gabriel de Valseca and continued to study geography. In 1488, Amerigo Vespucci was sent by Popolano to Seville in order to find a replacement for Popolano's business agent there. In a couple of years, Vespucci had permanently settled down in Seville for reasons still unknown. It was in the year 1497 that Amerigo Vespucci allegedly undertook his first-ever voyage to the New World, departing from Spain in May 1497 and returning in October 1498. It is not certain if this voyage took place or not, as the only evidence of such a voyage taking place is a letter, supposedly written by Vespucci to a Florentine official named Piero Soderini. In the letter, Vespucci, or whoever actually wrote it, gives an account of the voyage. As this letter is the only document historians have managed to acquire regarding this first voyage, many scholars doubt such a voyage, as described in the letter, actually took place. The accuracy and authorship of the letter have been questioned and suspected by scholars over the centuries, many dismissing it as a forged letter. Scholars have also pointed out a few inconsistencies in the account, which only leads to more suspicion and speculation. Some scholars say that the letter was never written by Vespucci but by an unknown author with access to Vespucci's private letters to Lorenzo de' Medici about his subsequent voyages in 1499 and 1501. Others say that Vespucci used his observations from his later voyages to write up a fictional account of this first voyage. The truth, unfortunately, is difficult to ascertain. Vespucci's second voyage to the New World is said to have taken place in May 1499, when he was 48 years old. The mission of the expedition was to explore the coast of a new landmass found by Columbus on his third voyage and to investigate a rich source of pearls that Columbus had reported. When writing about the voyage later, Vespucci would give the impression that he had a leadership role in the expedition, which is highly unlikely due to his obvious inexperience. Vespucci and his investors did finance 2 of the 4 ships in the fleet, however, his actual role in the expedition is still not clear. Some scholars speculate that he merely served as a representative of the fleet's investors. The fleet of 4 ships left Spain in May 1499, and on reaching present-day French Guiana or Suriname, the fleet split up with 2 ships going northward toward Venezuela and 2 heading southward. Vespucci was in the fleet that went southward. The only account of this southward journey comes from Vespucci himself. By the time Amerigo Vespucci returned from his second voyage, he had gained somewhat of a reputation as an explorer and navigator in Spain and Portugal. Impressed by his reputation, King Manuel I of Portugal hired him to serve as a pilot for an expedition. The expedition was commissioned to investigate a landmass discovered unexpectedly by Portuguese nobleman and explorer Pedro Álvares Cabral on his voyage around Africa to India. This landmass would become present-day Brazil. The fleet of 3 ships left Lisbon for Brazil in May 1501. Vespucci would later claim that he understood that Brazil was part of a continent unknown and new to Europeans. Some historians question this claim, stating that both Vespucci and Columbus most likely died in the belief that they had reached the eastern edge of Asia. As per the contentious and controversial letter written to Soderini, Amerigo Vespucci was part of a 4th expedition to the New World. This alleged voyage was again sponsored by the Portuguese crown with the intention to explore more of the east coast of Brazil. However, the details of this voyage are unclear and even doubtful due to the contentious nature of the letter. Historians have also found inconsistencies with the dates and details reported in the account provided in the letter. This 4th voyage allegedly took place between 1503 and 1504. By early 1505, Vespucci had returned to Seville with a surge in his fame and reputation as an explorer and navigator in Europe. King Ferdinand of Spain now wanted to navigate a western passage to India and summoned Vespucci to consult on navigation matters. Vespucci was paid by the crown for his services, and in April 1505 he was declared a citizen of Leon and Castile by royal proclamation. Vespucci would go on to serve the Spanish crown until his death in 1512, mainly supplying ships bound for the New World. In 1508, he was appointed chief pilot for the House of Commerce, which served as a central trading house for Spain's overseas possessions. In this capacity, he was responsible for ensuring that the pilot of the ships was properly trained and licensed before setting sail to the New World. He also had to compile a model map based on the inputs from pilots who returned after each voyage. By now, Vespucci's fame as an explorer of the New World was at its peak, because of the publication of a world map made by German cartographer Martin Waldseemüller published in April 1507. The Waldseemüller map was the first map to use the Latinized term America for South America, in honor of Amerigo Vespucci. In the year 1538, cartographer Gerardus Mercator used the term America to name both the North and South continents on his world map. Vespucci died on 22nd of February 1512, leaving a modest estate to his Spanish wife and his books, clothes, and navigational equipment to his nephew Giovanni Vespucci. Since his death, Amerigo Vespucci has gone on to become a highly controversial figure, dividing opinions and sparking debates that would last for centuries to come. He is often regarded as the most enigmatic and controversial figure in early American history. Despite all the controversies, one cannot ignore the fact that Amerigo Vespucci is now widely regarded as one of the most prominent and significant explorers and navigators of the Age of Discovery. Regardless of whether he deserves it or not, his name and legacy have been cemented for the ages.